Is the Eurozone debt crisis back with a bang?
Hopes that Europe's debt woes would go away in 2012 proved premature. If the Eurozone was a patient, it was in intensive care throughout the year. Not even new leaders in Greece and France could calm nerves. Ultimately, it fell to European Central Bank President Mario Draghi to prop things up while politicians kept dithering.
The ECB is ready to do whatever it takes to preserve the euro.
Further action by the ECB in the bond markets eased fears, but the meetings, summits and discussions continued, often all through the night. Towards the end of the year, Europe found itself the recipient of a Nobel Prize, albeit not for its contribution to economics.
The Nobel Peace Prize for 2012 is to be awarded to the European Union.
Furious shuttle diplomacy between the European capitals kept a lid on the Eurozone crisis, but London, itself outside the Eurozone, had its own crisis of faith. A series of scandals rocked the British capital.
This is the tank where the whale swam. JP Morgan's whale is causing more than ripples in global financial markets after the story broke late Thursday that the French-born trader in London has clocked up more than $2 billion of trading losses.
Max, yesterday he said he was going to stay. This morning he's gone. What happened overnight?
Well, apparently Bob went to see the board last night and essentially tendered his resignation, saying that the fallout from this LIBOR scandal was damaging the Barclays Bank and that, as CEO, his position was no longer tenable.
Former UBS trader Kweku Adeboli has been found guilty of fraud and sentenced to 7 years in prison in connection with a $2.3 billion loss that hobbled that Swiss bank.
The unregulated laissez-faire world of London's financial markets did little to help the UK's confidence, but salvation came in the form of the Olympics. The 17-day extravaganza showed that Britain could host a world-class event, and in style.
A lot of people in London spent 7 years dreading this event and planning to flee it, and by yesterday afternoon, I think, most people who were here actually didn't want it to end.
Records may have been broken in the pool and on track and field, but a significant science breakthrough in physics took us a step closer to understanding the building blocks of the universe.
This is a particle, the Higgs boson, that is believed to confer mass to all other particles that have mass. And that's a very significant achievement.
There may have been a downturn across Europe, but the action didn't stop in the corporate world.
In a long-anticipated move, natural resource powerhouses Glencore and Xstrata shook hands on a mega merger deal in February. The natural resources industry in Europe produced the year's other big deal as well, the nearly $60 billion acquisition by Russian oil giant Rosneft of the TNK-BP joint venture there. The M&A market in general, and in Europe in particular, remained in the doldrums in 2012, however. The difficulty of getting deals over the finish line was on full display this fall when EADS and BAE tried to merge unsuccessfully. That deal would have created the world's largest aerospace and defense concern.
As deals were made and broken, many consumers reined in their spending, but the rich continued to spend.
Rain may have fallen on Burberry's runway earlier this year, but the company's results are still shining.
And the wealthy certainly like their luxury cars.
New figures show that sales of the luxury car owned by BMW rose by 31% in the last year. That is 3,538 more Rolls-Royces whispering their way around the world.
And Nick, it's the same again. We've had BMW and Audi out this morning with huge leaps in their car sales.
But Carmageddon loomed for non-German European car makers, Fiat, Peugeot and GM's Opel. In the tech world, Apple and Samsung continue to dominate at the expense of Europe's biggest phone competitor, Nokia.
Nokia reported its 6th consecutive quarterly loss.
The message to Wall Street is we are going through a really difficult transition. That's very apparent. The thing that I'm proud of is that we have the courage and capability to say we have these issues, we're making these changes, and we're not at all shy about doing what's necessary to ensure we move through this transition.
Last but not least, what is Europe without its sports? Chelsea won the Champions League, Sebastian Vettel shined in Formula One, and Andy Murray became yet another European to win a tennis Grand Slam tournament with victory at the US Open. Lest we forget, Europe also triumphed in another sporting competition against an ancient foe, reclaiming the Golf Ryder Cup. Now, who did Europe play against again?
Whether you look at it as one of the greatest comebacks or one of the greatest chokes on the part of the American team sort of depends on how you see the final day unfolding.
2012 has been a tumultuous year with many surprises, and with 2013 looming, one thing we can be certain of is that the battle to save the Euro will continue.